Hey there, gamers. DreamcastGuy here, and today we're going to talk about the death of games journalism because at this point, it's pretty obvious that every major gaming website is currently imploding. I mean, IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, Polygon, a bunch of these people are now doing mass layoffs. They're firing pretty much everybody, and that doesn't even count the websites that have already been shut down, like Game Informer, GamesIndustry.biz. I mean, the amount of companies that are completely imploding and the fact that people are celebrating it, I wanted to talk about this because it is kind of messy, and I'm interested in just how messy this is. Now, I must admit that I am sad about the idea of games journalism dying because the classical sense of it, I loved so much. I am the kind of kid that grew up completely obsessed with gaming magazines. You used to get these beautiful articles with the first screenshots, in-depth writing with previews, reviews, coverage, interviews with developers and stuff. This is part of what originally sparked my own interest in writing scripts and editing video and stuff like that. And it is weird to think that video games have become such a passion-focused industry. The entirety of gaming continues to grow, but the actual old-school coverage of it at this point is just kaput. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the numbers, and let's look at a lot of the reactions about this, because a lot of journalists are, of course, sad, and I'd say about 80% of the internet seems to be happy about the fact that it's pretty obvious that IG and GameSpot, pretty much all these companies, are about to just be gone. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So this is what originally kind of spurned this, is that GamesIndustry.biz is a truly one-of-a-kind and a very important website. This was a set of games journalists that actually had access to information that standard people don't do. I think a big cause of the death of gaming journalism, of gaming websites and stuff, is, of course, YouTube, right? I mean, people like to watch me talk about games. My games reviews actually a lot of times outperform some major gaming websites, which trips me out because I'm one guy literally filming videos 10 feet from my bed where my cat is currently asleep. It's weird to think the fact that people care more now about a personal reviewer than the idea of an IGN Metacritic score. A lot of times I do feel like the individual stories of people are more impactful now than like brand recognition conglomerates. But GamesIndustry.biz, this is a website that was incredibly important because they had access to information that you and I just do not have. This was basically a set of journalists that was able to see stuff about sales data, internal information, schematics, and stuff like that. So when they reported on stuff, a lot of times this is the only way that information could get out. And now they've been bought, they've been gutted, along with IGN and apparently Humble Bundle. So it's bizarre to see the fact that they are just gone. They've been fully gutted because of this deal, truly one of my go-to resources, and seemingly every name I know there has been taken out in less than a year. Now, I found it fascinating that pretty much everybody in the comments is saying IGN did this to themselves, no assistance needed. As for Kotaku and G4, those establishments are also to blame for their own failures. Don't get me wrong, I wish they were actually good, but turns out no one likes trash products or trash websites, especially trash opinions. Or even this, I think this is an interesting term that people keep bringing up: corporate media. The truth is, corporate media doesn't work well when no one has figured out how to keep things profitable. The future is more gangs of content creators like Easy Allies pioneering this from game trailers, making quality, but not big companies. This is an interesting point of view because, honestly, there are YouTubers, just individual people now, that are massively bigger, more profitable, more energetic, more fan activating than the entire team, the entire studio, the entire staff of IGN. And that's a weird thing to think about, but let me keep going here. So this is Danny O'Dwyer. I'm a big fan of Danny O'Dwyer, and I've been watching his stuff now for, I think, God, 15 years, which is crazy to think about. This guy has worked at a bunch of major gaming websites, and now he does the incredibly top-notch, no-clip documentaries. He essentially goes and interviews game developers about their struggles. He shows early beta footage. This guy, truly some of the best documentaries on the entire internet, but especially for video games. And he says it's strange to think about the fact that games journalism now is like fewer than 40 people. Magazines are basically gone. Websites are close behind him. None of this is a surprise to me, but it is incredibly sad. We had something awesome there for a while, and younger generations have no idea what they missed. Now, I feel like this is an interesting sentiment because I do agree with the fact that these websites used to be a lot better, but it is weird to think about the fact that as they go away, what they created is also kind of vanished in the process. Like, I grew up watching a lot of G4 TV, and yeah, they tried to do that incredibly cringy, terrible revival and stuff like that, but G4 TV used to have skits, it had reviews, it had the first look gameplays and stuff like that, so when you watched G4, you didn't really know what you were going to get, but it is weird to think that a lot of that stuff, even the skits and stuff now, are just gone. If somebody didn't personally choose to record it, to archive it, it's all just vanished when G4 got taken off the air. And that is weird to think about, because I will admit the fact that I wish that we had less lost media. It is weird that of all the different industries, I do feel like everything right now is kind of having this lost media problem, where there are now movies you can't watch unless you bootleg them. There's games you can't play unless you bootleg them. There's books and stuff. There's media and stuff that is good, but unless you find an out-of-print copy of it, it's difficult to get those stories. And I guess I am worried about that. So I collect a lot of books, a lot of video game books about archiving the history of Nintendo, how Iwata managed to help create the Nintendo Switch and everything shortly before his death. These kind of books, in my opinion, are incredibly important, and I'm glad they physically exist. If this was just a blog, if this was just a YouTube channel, if this was just a singular documentary, I feel like it would not have been so permanent. I am a little bit afraid that when the gaming websites shut down, we are going to lose access to some historical data that is just going to be perma-gone. But he actually goes on to talk about the fact that it is interesting that certain people, the biggest journalists, the biggest known personalities, will probably become YouTubers and stuff themselves, but it is weird that this is kind of becoming like the music industry. Consolidated, killed, and salted earth. And I do think consolidation is the biggest problem about this, is that right now, obviously, we see acquisitions being done by Nintendo, by Microsoft, by PlayStation, by Tencent and stuff like that. And as these companies get bought or buy each other out, a lot of times they do mass layoffs, they cancel projects, they scale down. And I almost feel like it is weird that the entirety of the gaming industry, both the journalism side and honestly just the big enthusiast side of it, it's weird how much things are shuffling. I think 2025 is going to be the final exodus. In fact, we're already seeing people that are mass quitting at IGN. Kat Bailey is leaving today, along with an exodus of other employees following the buyout offers by Ziff Davis, an incredible talent of games media veterans I've loved. Feels like forever. Now, I wanted to talk about this because this lady, Kat Bailey, is incredible. She has actually been part of a ton of different projects for the last decade. The fact that she is leaving IGN, I think this is a clear sign about how IGN is just dead. Today is my last day. It's been an incredible ride, and I'll miss everyone so much, especially the newsies. I'll be focusing on my podcast and personal projects, but I am open for work. Now, this lady, she lives and breathes video games. She's done hundreds of reviews. She's done thousands of podcasts and stuff. She knew exactly what she was doing. The fact that she is just quitting, I think it's a sign that IGN is just dead, dead, dead. Now, I got 2 posts left here I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at the replies to this. I wouldn't go that far. Their coverage has been spotty at best. Games industry is crumbling because y'all lost the plot in many areas. 7 out of 10 employees were shocked by this. Good. Can't wait to see the rest of you follow suit and your company crumble. Yeah. So I think it's interesting that everybody is celebrating the death of IGN. And I can't say I'm not completely among it. I do think a lot of these websites have continued to get worse and worse and worse in a lot of ways. I wish they would go back to as good as they were a couple of years back. It definitely feels like everything kind of feels much more slapped together. I've definitely seen some reviews with strangely terrible audio where it sounds like a guy is whispering underneath his desk in the office. I've seen some videos that were so bad from pretty much every major gaming website that it's kind of confusing, to be honest with you. So people celebrating the death of these websites isn't the biggest shock. It is still just that thing where, as a person that grew up reading this stuff, who has been covering it and for watching it for all these years, it is still weird to just see the death of it. Now, I want to just end with this post over on Blue Sky by SkillUp, because I think it really signifies how tiny the pool of games journalism is. I feel like there are a lot of people that like to complain about games journalists and say they're the worst, games industry in general, that games journalisms are toxic, stuff like that. But I feel like this really puts into perspective how the total group of all professional games journalists is legitimately probably under 100 people. This is the biggest games media outlet in Australia, and it's 4 people. At full-time staff, I am now the biggest media games employer in Australia. And the replies are like, dude, congrats, but also Jesus Christ. Yeah. Games media, as it existed, has changed. And I do think YouTube is the predominant cause of that. I do think people enjoy a specific individual more. I make videos sometimes that really piss people off. There's a lot of stuff I make that people love and celebrate, and they talk about how I'm the best reviewer of all time. But also I do see times where I make stuff and I end up trending on Twitter, or people get mad about this or that or whatever. But people keep coming back and watching. People keep subscribing. People keep liking the videos. People keep leaving comments. And I almost feel like that is the biggest sign about why it feels like YouTube specifically has just butchered gaming websites. People would rather have an individual person, an individual face, a guy on camera talking about my own opinions. And yeah, you could say, I'm biased, I have too much fun playing my PlayStation, or man, this guy makes a lot of videos about how Xbox sucks and then loved Indiana Jones. Even if you love my content or hate my content, or love somebody like Asmongold, or you love somebody like SkillUp or whatever, I feel like now people want to have a specific person, a name and a face, a person you can attribute the opinions, the game scores, the actual talks about. Whereas big amorphous blobs, Edge Magazine, IGN, GameSpot, these big blobs, the title of Kotaku does not instantly gain trust or happiness or anything like that. At this point, people want to see someone, because even if they love them or hate them, it's still damn entertaining. Whereas with IGN, with GameSpot, with Kotaku, with Polygon, I think we've hit a weird spot where I don't think people even care about beating them up anymore. I don't think they even have hate readers anymore. I think people have kind of just moved on and said, yeah, I'd rather watch one guy in his bedroom talking about video games more than I care about a big, gigantic corporate media with a cool sound stage and 19 sound booths and a rotating cast of 7 different podcast hosts. Now people just want to see a person. And I find it interesting, but what do you guys think about it? How do you feel about the death of games journalism? Because at this point, it's not even a matter of years left in the clock. It's pretty obvious they have months left to live, and it's still kind of odd. I'm sad to see them go, but I guess that's the way it goes. Thanks for watching this video. If you could, please give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Oh, and tell me in the comments what websites you hate the most. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.